Okay, so this video is missing a few spots. The camera kept shutting off or whatever, so I already, I'm pretty scattered or sound like it when I'm talking anyways, and the missing segments make it seem even more interrupted, but so I could either just not post it because it's not perfect, or I could post it and then maybe there's some little piece of information somewhere that works for somebody. While it's cold and flu season, okay, that's cool. Everybody knows what you can take, but we're going to talk about mostly what you can take away, right? And the emotional, spiritual aspects of dis-ease, what we're not at ease with. And yeah, so if it's not perfect, oh well, you can come record the next talk. I have these. And I know these are going to make you think that it's like an organized presentation, but it isn't. This is just because, as Sherry knows, in the first email or whatever, I'm like, okay, well, I could talk about all these different things. And she's like, well, maybe you want to minimize it. And so whatever I wrote in that email, the ones that came off the top of my head, I decided to pretend I'm a responsible person. And I copied and pasted them and put them on paper with a little information. And of course, by all means, this is not every possible remedy or every possible herbal terminology. These aren't the only way of anything, in fact, and that's why I figured I might, like if I talk, other herbs might come up, but yeah, so I just put basics that are common here in the Ozarks, and I'm sure everybody's heard of probably all of them, and I organized the first 3 papers. I put them in categories as far as, what are the categories? Culinary, wild, and common garden. But I had to limit it to whatever. And how long is the presentation going to be? I have no clue. That all depends on you and if I'm even saying anything of value. But I definitely, okay. So yeah, I definitely want to make sure that I'm not wasting anybody's time. Should I leave these extras up front?
Yes.
Yeah, so anything that I speak about will be of my own personal experience. I don't read books and regurgitate. And yeah, if I don't know, then I'm just going to tell you I have no clue, or I heard this, or whatever. And of course, anything I do discuss, I think I've put a disclaimer here. I'm not a medical doctor, and this is all for informational and entertainment purposes only. Do not make any changes to your diet, whether they be herbs, essential oils, etc., without consulting your medical professional. And as much as I love all herbs and use them, they may not be safe for certain people when taking certain medications. Please do your own research before you choose to listen or experiment with anything I talk about today. It's getting hot already. Middle age, chaseberry baby. So that would be for hot flashes and all that fun stuff. Evening primrose is a good one. Sage is also really good for that too. But so there's so many. That's the problem when you talk about herbs. I can't just say, this is it. So I've been talking herbs for a really long time, and one thing that is super important to me is to make things accessible, right? Because you can go online and people are talking about herbs in South America or China or whatever, and we're in a place where we realize that we might not be able to get shipping from the rainforest in Brazil or Tibet or wherever, right? So I have been really just trying to promote awareness of things that most everybody already knows, but we completely ignore because they're just, say, spices in the cabinet. It just makes my pizza taste better or whatever, which is great. You know, you want to eat pizza, that's cool, load it up with some herbs. But some of the things I want to talk about today are not just the herbs or food even, because the truth is all illness comes from, I'll just say, all illness is here to teach us something, right? And so when we look at disease, no matter what it is, from the common cold and flu to cancer, they're all just different levels of exactly dis-ease. And so we're part of a society that's been taught, ooh, this hurts, fix it, right? Without any foresight or self-responsibility or proper, I think, methodology that our ancestors used to use, right? So full healing, I'll just say this, and sometimes I speak pretty direct, no offense to anyone at all ever, it's just the only way I know, but all disease stems from our own unhealthy thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, deeds, etc. And what we consume isn't just food. It's our TV, it's our radio, it's our social circles, it's whatever, right? So anything that we allow into this barrier, which incidentally, our immune system isn't just something that is inside of us, it's actually been scientifically proven, environmentally based, and like almost like a force field around your bubble. So things I want to be sure to talk about are, well, some of the things I wrote down: homegrown healthcare, question, feel sick, question, what do I do? Nature versus man-made, and emotional and spiritual health. So since we're talking about flying through flu season with ease, I don't even know how many herbs I picked, but as you can see on the first page are things you've all heard of that are super common in any grocery store. This is not to be said that any of these herbs you buy in a grocery store are going to actually be able to address the conditions we're going to speak about today. And when it comes to conditions for colds and flus, I would love for you all to share the ones that you most commonly experience, and then we can address like the psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual reason behind it. Because here's the thing, without that, you're never going to heal yourself. It doesn't matter what it is, right? So self-responsibility, and I think I wrote on here, removing the middleman. So it's January, and I got the winter blues, and I got the sniffles, and I'm super sick, and I can't make it to work. What do I do? First of all, we have to just like chill and do nothing and assess the situation. Because a lot of us are trained to, oh, let's go grab this pill, let's grab that aspirin, let's grab, you know, all these different things, and then you don't, or then you go on the internet and you're like, oh, I gotta order this special berry from this country or that. When in reality, everything you need is already inside of you. Initially, I'm gonna talk about things outside of us. So if you are looking at the first list, by the way, the second list, don't even worry about it. I'm giving it to you as a reference. It's lots of big words that I probably don't even pronounce right. And frankly, they're super unnecessary for the common person unless you're in the medical field, right? And you have to know what, you know, certain things are. But the herbal terminology I decided to include because if I do say things like flavonoids or styptic or emmenagogue or, you know, then you can look, and also, there's 2 pages there, I swear. It'll be a reference for when you get home and you hear of certain terminology or words that you might not know, adjuvant or demulsifier or whatever. So that's just, we don't even really have to look at that. It's just kind of like a bonus to take with you to explain some of the things. Of course, if I say something that doesn't make sense, then, you know, definitely interrupt, call me out immediately, because lots of things I say probably don't make sense anyways. But the common herbalist, honestly, these terms are completely unnecessary. None of these terms existed when our ancestors started making poultices from what was growing out in their yard, right? They don't exist in Native American culture when they're stripping the bark off a willow. They, you know, so there's that. Okay. All right, so if you notice, on the first page I put just some culinary herbs because Sherry is more responsible than me and wanted me to kind of dial it in, right? So I added basil, rosemary, sage, thyme, and oregano, not only because they're super common and always heard of, but also because they're super underlooked. I included some of the properties they'll have, like flavonoids, phenols, polyphenols, terpenes, yeah, vitamins, minerals, etc., which again is not something we talked about. Now if you look, in each herb I put to the best of my ability. By no means will this be a complete list, but all of the properties that definitions are over here if you don't know what they are, of each of the herbs. And I know we're talking specifically about cold and flu season, but how could I talk about basil without also at least slipping in there that it's a neuroprotective, or that sage could help with hot flashes, or because all of these things aren't just one thing, and they're not just for pesto. I'm just going to kind of really go over some of these really quickly and then talk about emotional aspects and then open up for questions, because I think that's where we're going to get the more deep. Oh my gosh. And I'm a jerk. I did on the way here, but when I got here, I completely forgot to give thanks to Spirit for helping me say the right things, the right words, and the right combination for the people that are here today and what they need to hear. Thank you. The second page, common yard weeds in the Ozarks, which a lot of these are everywhere, but honestly, if you've moved around, they do look slightly different in different places. Like a dandelion in Arizona looks different than a dandelion in Minnesota. In fact, there's dandelions, tooth of the lion, by the way, where the name came from, but in my yard, some of the are super jaggedy, like the teeth, and then some are more round, like chicory, or so. Never use or pick an herb outside if you don't know what it is. And I'm just saying that because I have to. But the truth is, nothing's gonna kill you. Don't be afraid. I don't want to make you fear herbs out in your yard. And that will be deleted for you too. So, the herbs I mentioned on here, and a couple of them, they say whole plant, right. So mullein and dandelion, I put in parentheses whole plant because you can literally use the whole plant. Leaves, flowers, stems, and roots. And the ones where I left that out, to my knowledge, we're not using the roots. So maybe people are, I just don't know, and I don't know how. So, but I included dandelion, self-heal, Prunella vulgaris. Some people know it by that, but I'm trying to stay away from the binomial names because it confuses people. And, you know, I don't know everybody's level of understanding. I just want to make herbalism available for everyone, no matter what your background or level of education or whatever. So I'm going to stick to calling things by their common names. Daisy, feverfew, mullein, bee balm, which are several types, but bee balm, if you've ever heard of Oswego tea, it's like super expensive with a fancy name. That's all it is bee balm. Echinacea, stinging nettle, and willow. And the reason I wrote just willow and not white willow or anything like that is because all willows contain salicin or salicylic acid, which is an analgesic, aka pain reliever. And then on the third page, let's see, found in your garden commonly. And it's so sad that I could only add like 5 here because that's what I put in the email. But chamomile, mints, I put mints plural because every mint pretty much does the same. Hyssop, holy basil, and wormwood. And then I also wrote down some kitchen staples that probably everybody has on hand: garlic, ginger, turmeric, lemon. And in addition, apple cider vinegar, raw local honey, cinnamon, cabbage, cayenne, clove, coconut, lots of C's, frankincense, myrrh, and lavender. All right, that's all I'm going to use this for. So, it's January and I'm sick and I feel like hell. What am I going to do? For real healing, that's what I'm going to discuss, right? If we want patchwork, then go take a pill or go make the pain go away. But it doesn't matter what I do, whether I cut my finger off, whether I gash my leg, whether I fall down the stairs or get poked in the head or my chin or whatever. The first thing I do is say thank you for being here. What am I missing? What do I need to learn? And colds and flus are no different, right? So many of us get colds and flus every single year. Why? Not because in fact, I used to have a guy on my show that would say, we don't catch colds, we earn them. And what he meant by that is we earn them by overworking ourselves. And science, as we discussed earlier, history's changing, they're rewriting it before our eyes. They are also rewriting information about viruses and bacteria and stuff too. So maybe some of the things I say will be outdated, but a few years ago, they admitted there's no cure for the common cold, and a few years ago, there was supposedly nothing that you could do for a virus, right? So, other than that's your body's process of already doing the healing that it's designed to do without our interruptions, I guess I should say, or working against ourselves. So that's the thing. What we need to understand first is our body is a self-healing machine. Facts, like that's how we were born. Like look at worms or lizards or anyone in nature who's eating their natural diet. You chop off their tail, they grow a new one. We can kind of do the same thing, and I kind of proved it when I grew my finger back. I bet you none of you can figure out which one I cut off. And there's pictures and videos, so it's real life. And maybe I should share a little bit about me. I'm not just a chick that figured out herbs or read a book or was educated. I was a sickly child and adult for almost 40 years begging for death. Like, honestly believing that I was here to be punished, and I must have been a horrible person in a past life, and therefore, of course, I'm going to catch every single dis-ease out there. It wasn't until I got tired of being sick and tired all the time, and thankfully, I met people along the way that planted little seeds, and including dandelions, which I call the gateway drug. So that was the first lady that told me that. She's like, wow, you're really toxic. You need to go pick some of those dandelions in your yard and make a tea. And I was just like, whatever you're smoking, can I have some? Because that was like the weirdest thing I'd ever heard at the time. All I knew about dandelions was, don't touch those, they're poison. So, you know, that was the first time that I heard, and thankfully my mind was open, probably due to way too many years of suffering, not being able to talk and walk, my children, senior citizens, picking me up off the ground. Like, that is not something I was willing to do long term. So my transition from going to doctors or taking their drugs, whether they're in a pharmacy or a, what's that called, over the counter or anything like that, I went from that to no, never. So probably about 2007 was my last time going to a doctor. And I'm going to share that with you here. That was because there I was in a wheelchair, and I had been diagnosed with multiple things: rheumatoid arthritis, fibro, MS. I had already supposedly overcame cancer, diabetes insipidus. I'm not even going to remember. I had 5 abnormally large cysts in my spine, herniated discs, all of these things that I'm never supposed to walk again. And I was on the radio at the time, literally doing it from my bed and a telephone, because I couldn't walk and I had no other way. I just knew that whatever I tried to do couldn't be as bad as the last 35 plus years of torture. And I happened to meet a woman who had left mainstream medicine, who had basically re-educated me about all of this stuff that I thought I learned in shul. Sorry, I just have to call it that because it's, yeah. Anyways, anybody who's been to school understands, I'm sure, that not everything we're taught is true. So after years and years of never being able to get well and sick all the time and literally only getting worse and taking more drugs, when I met Nurse Olivia and I started doing some things, replacing my unnatural with natural, and started getting well, my last doctor appointment, I showed up, and I was in a wheelchair, of course, but I was so excited to tell him that, look, I could get up and put weight on my legs. Like, you know, I was really like, I'm gonna walk again, right? And stupid me, I thought he would be excited. Not even close. In fact, he actually was kind of like, what's wrong with you? He tried to gaslight me, really, that's what it was, and psychologically terrorize me by telling me that that isn't real and I can get all the nutrition I need in the grocery store. So he wrote me a new prescription. I had no idea what it was. I had already stopped all pills at the time. I was just there because it's like procedure, right? So I took that prescription home. I don't even remember what it was called, but I looked it up and it was an antipsychotic. Then I started noticing, like, my mom and other people with things like diabetes, they'd give them antidepressants. Or people with cancer and they'd give them antifungals. Or, you know, all of these things that completely went against what we were taught, right? And thankfully, being in the radio arena at the time, I was basically contacted by everybody who wanted to tell their truth of the world, and fortunately many of them planted seeds that led me to where I am today, where I basically went from trusting them in every aspect to not trusting anything and realizing that God is smarter than man. And I use the term God not because I'm promoting religion of any kind or any type of belief system. It's just a word that I think we all commonly understand or associate with that which is smarter and wiser than us, that keeps the holy, that's what holy is, the whole pie, whatever it is, together. I think we're all little pieces of that. That being said, due to education and other things like that, parents, teachers, politicians, news, etc., we have been taught to believe that we have no power and that we are just victims of, oh, it's cold and flu season, I'm gonna get sick now. Okay, so is there some type of programming going on that makes us expect it and accept it? Or is there something more? So, as a man thinketh, of course, comes to mind. We have the power to create, to an extent, pretty much everything we experience. So, my former me, poor me, I mean, I was the greatest self-hater, pity partier there ever was. And I'm not joking, like, I literally don't even know how I got here today when I think of, like, the old me, just thinking that everything was bleak and there was no hope and I'm always gonna have to just go to doctors and take more pills and do all these things. Fortunately, what happened for me is I lost my job. That meant I lost my insurance. And at the time it was devastating, but obviously it all worked out because as a single mother, you kind of have to figure out different ways. And so those different ways became herbalism. How can I do more for myself and how can I spend less money in the grocery store? Do I really need all these products they taught me I needed? Do I really need razors? Do I really need shampoo and conditioner and their poisonous skin cream and their, like, bras and all that? By the way, bras cause cancer, okay? Free the boobies. I started that like well over a decade. And think about it, it causes constriction, lymphatic constriction. Your lymphatic system, our whole body is just like the house we live in, right? So in your house, you have an electrical system, you have a sewer system, right? You got the clean, white, gray water, black water, right? So in our body is the same. So when anything is being constricted, then it's not flowing and eliminating properly, and that's why we get lumps, or not me, but other people do. So one of the reasons. And when you think about it, so your lymphatic, your sewer system flowing, what is it flowing in your body? Are we, I just want to say, garbage in, garbage out. Are we putting garbage in and then saying, oh God, heal me? Right? Or are we like, oh, paying attention to just our frivolous desires and whims, and I have to do this even though I know it's going to hurt me, but I'm going to do it anyways, and then I'm just going to go complain that I feel like crap. Or another hangover, or another, all these things we do to ourselves, right? Like, I'm not above any of that. I've done it all a million times, and I did it one time too many, which again is what led me here. So, all right, when we're sick, let me get back to that. So we're gonna do nothing. I say thank you, what are you doing here? What am I ignoring? So our body is like a perfectly designed map. And sometimes, like, I talk to people all the time, and they're like, I'm depressed, and I'll say, why? And they're like, I don't know. Well, then who does? So we are a little disconnected from our true selves, no fault of our own, right? But that's why we're here, connecting consciousness, meaning if we are conscious of the fact that we do play some role in our own life, health, etc. And I'll go so far as to say that today we are a representation of every thought, action, word, deed we have ever experienced in our life. If you don't like it, then the good news is we can change it. And if you do like it, awesome, keep going, right? And that's a good thing. Like, we're here. I kind of look at Earth as like a school, right? So each of these diseases, accidents, etc., are basically initiations, right? And so I see a lot of people there that know a lot about what's going on out there, but they still run to the poisoners to heal them. And that's not possible because it's our programming that makes us think we need to go to the poisoners in the first place that's keeping us ill. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. Our body is literally a map. So now when people say like, oh, I'm depressed, and they don't know why, but then they'll tell me about a pain. Okay, well, where's that pain? Any pain or physical or mental, emotional condition anyone addresses me with, I can literally tell you your entire life story and where it came from. So if you don't know why you're, say, depressed or anxious or stuffed up or all of these things, your body can tell you. And a good reference for that is Louise Hay. It's a book, I think it's called You Can Heal Your Life. And it's basically like a terminology, and then she goes into little things. But if you listen to her talk, she'll talk about her whole life story, which is crazy. Like, okay, I don't know. All right, so we can go through these symptoms. I want to talk what we can do about them physically with what you have in your cabinet, but I also, more importantly, beyond herbs, beyond food, is getting right within ourselves, right? I would be completely remiss, and it would be boring, like, hey, basil, you know, it's antiviral or antimicrobial, or, you know, it's like, you guys already know that. I know you do, or you wouldn't even be here. You've been introduced to at least that and way beyond what I put on here, right? So I'm just hoping this will be like a reference to you. But let's just start with the common symptoms that coughing, what'd you say, lung related, the coughing, the congestion, the sneezing, all of that. So flu season is typically the time where we've been laying in bed for a little bit. All of our coworkers have been programmed that they're supposed to get sick, or they just have Halloween parties or things like that to go to. So we end up doing our work and their work, right? Picking up those extra shifts, and we can't say no, right? And then we go home and we don't have time to take care of our own stuff. So the cold flu, the way we earn it predominantly is by doing too much and not having the ability to set boundaries, or even having the time to recognize that changes need to be made. And I used to do this all the time. Like, I had the yearly or the annual flu, right? And that's, again, when I was working and frustrated, but trying to be a good person, so I had to cover for everybody, and right? And plus, when you're in that world, you don't have time to think about any of this nonsense I just stated today, right? We barely have time to, like, turn on the news, put something in the microwave, and go to bed, right? So clearly these questions aren't that we're asking ourselves for everyone. That being said, any type of lung condition, coughing, wheezing, whether you call it cold, flu, bronchitis, pneumonia, COPD, it don't matter. Anything in the lung is repressed grief, suppressed crying, not addressing things that well, make us sad, right? Why? Because we're going to school and we're working and we're taking care of kids, and we don't have time to cry. We don't have time to express how we really feel. So we stuff it up, and then we get more congestion, and then our head hurts because we're too much in our head and not in our heart, right? And causing that pain and inflammation, which is what? Anger, rage, right? Anything inflammation. And that's the one common denominator of all pain. So it doesn't even matter what type of pain we're talking about. Throat pain, chest pain, head pain, knee pain, which may or may not be related to cold and flu, right? Because we're an entire system. Like, people like to complicate things and look at all these different systems as if they're separate. Like, oh, my adrenals are weak. or my metabolism, or my heart, or okay, that's cool. That's also probably true because you said so. But more importantly, our body we're not just a bunch of different components. We're a fully a fully operational system machine that works together. So if your adrenals or metabolism or any other system you want to isolate in your body is weak, well, guess what? So is everything else. So our body is basically like a community where somebody falls and you go pick them up, or they can't eat and you bring them dinner. Same thing in our bodies, right? So which system, our parasympathetic nervous system is weak? Cool. So somebody else inside that community is picking up the slack, right? Which will add the greater weight onto the other systems or organs. Organs, this is cool. So universe, one song, and we got our organs playing the tune inside of us. And what's the tune? The frequency, right, that we choose. Wow, that just came to me, organ. So, anyways. So address. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Where am I feeling less empowered, like I can't say no? Why do I feel like I have to pick up every single shift? Or why do I feel that I'm not good enough? Or, right? These are the things we need to address. After we address that, then we can say, okay, kitchen cabinet or yard, right? What do we have here? So, I did write a bunch of those things. Now, if I was having a flu, cold, pneumonia, bronchitis, anything like that, well, first I want to say, if you drink things like this every day, you'll never be sick. You just absolutely can't. Unless you're like super bitter and raging and this and that, because that's what disease is, right? Resentment.
What's in it?
This is lemongrass, ginger, lemon peel, mint, and I put some pineapple sage. And then, if you see the color at the bottom, every year with my watermelons, I squish them up and freeze a bunch of ice cubes. And I do the same thing with like a case of lemons. And so then I have cubes in the freezer. And so there's 2 cubes of each of those in there. Yeah, I love having just a lemon ice cube or whatever. I could have lemonade any time of year. Although, speaking of cold and flu, we should be eating seasonably, environmentally, biological, right? And so getting back to that God word and the whole machine, not just our body is perfectly designed, nature is perfectly designed. And things grow when they're supposed to, right? So growing up in San Diego, I was just so entitled. I thought that I should just be able to go to a store, restaurant, anytime and get anything I want. Didn't matter what time. It's winter, I don't care, give me my pineapples. Or, it's July, I don't care, give me my mangoes. Or whatever, right? And that's not natural. So thankfully I moved to a place with seasons, which helped me be more in tune with my natural cravings. Now, I get it when we're addicted to substances of any kind, including French fries, right? That's a substance. Then our brain could be a little clouded. And so that in that case, I would crave French toast with ice cream and French fries. And I needed it so bad. But since my minerals are more in balance, I crave exactly what I need. So, for example, I was doing a veganism thing like 10 years ago, and I've tried every diet just to see which is best or whatever, and ultimately the diet is natural moderation, whatever that means. But back then, again, winter, I'm supposed to have my watermelons shipped up to me from South America, right, or grape juice all day, every day, which, again, totally unnatural. things grow when they're supposed to, because it's natural for our body to be sluggish in the winter. Hopefully we're sitting by the fire and reading a good book and getting a rest from all the work we did in the spring, summer, and fall. It's when we're not doing those natural things that our body can feel it. We're not smarter than our body, our brain, our heart, and we can't fool it, right? So the fake food thing and all of that, like if we're putting fake things in, we're probably gonna get fake things out, right? And I know that people, well, what am I supposed to do? I need my marshmallows. Okay, well then keep your marshmallows, but don't complain to me about your sugar diabetes, right? And that's where it goes back to the choice. Getting back to me, if I had a cold or something like that right now, the first thing I would do is go eat a clove of garlic, and then I would make a tea, and initially I wouldn't even look for oregano. I would just go get my oregano essential oil. And by the way, don't ever use essential oils, especially oregano, neat. Neat meaning not mixed. Because if you put your drop of oregano in this, it's gonna float on the top, then you're gonna take a drink, and you're gonna have a bloody lip. Or in a bathtub, right? If you throw your frankincense and orange in the bathtub, it's gonna float on the top, and it may burn your skin. So, if you are gonna use essential oils to help with, say, respiratory issues, inflammation, joint pain, etc., then I would always recommend, if you're gonna do it like in a bath or a tea, take a little sugar or a little salt, and then put the oil on that, and then put it, or honey. So if I wanted to sweeten a tea or something and I'm having pneumonia and I need oregano essential oil, I would take the spoon, the honey would be in it, I would put the oregano essential oil on that, and then stir it in the beverage. So that's a safe way to use essential oils for all. And yeah, anyways, that's a whole nother presentation. So I would do that. Ginger root, I said ginger, lemon. I mean, really, if that's all you have, ginger, lemon, and a clove of garlic, that should be plenty. But then, what are we telling ourselves in the meantime? Oh, I feel like crap. Oh, I'm so sick. Oh, I'm in so much pain. Oh, I really want this chocolate malt, but I know it's gonna kill me. And you drink it anyway, right? But what if you drink that chocolate malt with gratitude and thanks and protection, and knowing that you can enjoy a dang malt once in a while if you really want, right? Because there is such a thing as a lot of health people, I'll just say this. During the, we'll call it pandemic, no store I went to were people wearing masks except at the health food stores. And it didn't matter if it was here in the truck patch or in Harrison at the whatever. Like, they were the most fearful. And fear, hello kidneys, hello liver, hello, common cold, right? So, yeah, help me get back on track. Okay. So, something simple like that, oregano oil, or just lemon and ginger, or just garlic, or even cayenne, which I put them at the end. Some people know of, I think you're all pretty much into essential oils, like doing, what do you call that, where you put the towel and inhale, like eucalyptus.
Yeah, vaporize.
Thank you. I'm sure I didn't add it to this. Okay, when it comes to herbs, I am going to stress again, herbs you get in a grocery store or a health food store, guess what? They all come from the same place. Amazon come from the same place. I've done a side-by-side comparison of my homegrown herbs and their herbs, and they don't even look like the same. I'm pretty sure most, if not all of you, grow your own herbs, so I would like to encourage you to continue to do that. And if you need tips on how to preserve them or what to do with them so that you have them all year, pretty please let me know. But any of these, whether it's a rosemary tea, which by the way, some people a lot are talking lately about thinning hair. Well, you can, that same medicine that you can use to soothe your throat or erase your cough or help with pain or inflammation or even assist with the memory, and you know, it can help your scalp or grow hair or even help with what's that woman's thing I just brought up earlier, that middle-aged problem I have? Yeah, menopause, whatever. So rosemary can also assist with that. Now, rosemary and sage, what I want to point out is that they both have the same properties. I could include thyme and oregano in that too, but the difference is when it comes to like lung health, respiratory issues, cold, flu, etc., pneumonia, especially fluid in the lungs, rosemary is my #1 choice. So if you or a pet or anyone, which by the way, whoever put together that pet thing, it's perfect, and it's like almost the same herbs that we put here, right? So yeah, it's safe for you and safe for your pets. And we're just still talking about the home herbs. Thyme, of course, one of the best antivirals known to man, as well as oregano, which you can take any of these as a tea. You can eat them in your food. You can use them topically. You can even do things like, for headaches, for example, macerate them or do a poultice. And like, you know, you don't have to have a fancy salve. You don't have to have a pill or capsule. And one of the things, speaking of which, where I wrote nature versus man-made, remove the middleman. Like, don't be taking garlic pills or rosemary or onion pill. Like, eat the garlic. That's the, you know, a lot of the problem with our health is all the middlemen and all the chemicals that they put in it so that they can trademark it or pay their brothers or whatever, right? So any of those herbs, basil, rosemary, what did I write? Sage, thyme, oregano, they can all be used in the same way as a tea. You can make a super strong decoction if you really need, hot or cold. I will say this, if you're making like infused oils, don't put them in the sun. I've heard so much bad advice online where they're like, oh yeah, just go put your basil in the jar and fill it up with olive oil and stick it in the window. No, #1, first of all, you do not make oil with wet herbs because water plus oil equals bacteria. And the reason herbal jars are brown or blue or purple or black is because sunlight affects the integrity of the product, right? So you definitely don't want to put it in a window of sun, which of course is going to breed more bacteria because you want your medicine to be pure. So I'll just quickly, if you're any of these herbs, if they're fresh, you can use them, eat them, take them as is, or for the most bang for your buck, get a dang $20 bottle of vodka and keep it in your kitchen and just make a tincture with them. My personal choice is 2-month minimum on any of them. You can do the same with garlic, turmeric, ginger, anything on this page while they're fresh. If you want to make an infused oil, make sure they're dried thoroughly, properly. I prefer to dry at 95 degrees. Now these herbs that we can find out here, like I have the only one, okay, dandelion, self-heal, daisy, feverfew. The only ones that are not growing right now in mid-November for me are feverfew and stinging nettle. So that means I can go outside anytime if I don't have a storehouse of these herbs and go get my vitamin C. Whether it's in a nettle, or sorry, I already said we don't have nettle right now in November, a dandelion or bee balm, echinacea, of course. So daisies, feverfew. Daisies and feverfew are used most traditionally, I mean it's in the name, right? To lessen your fever. A lot of these things that we talk about are hidden in our language. So you know, pay attention to that in your herbalism walk and what you can learn just about the name. But so if I was going to have a fever, or somebody was at my house and would have a fever, I would definitely add feverfew into their tea. Feverfew, like I said, daisy, both of them help soothe the throat and get rid of coughs, as well as mullein, of course, which is incredible for that. And doesn't matter if you drink it, if you eat it, if you smoke it, which honestly, my favorite way to help respiratory is to smoke it. In fact, mullein that's how they took all medicine up until 100 years ago, because it's in your lungs. And your lungs, like, it's your respiratory system. That's the air, that's what you inhale. It doesn't go through your blood and then, you know, take a pill, it's not gonna do that. So if you need to stop a cough immediately, put some mullein in your pipe and smoke it. And yeah, so you don't have to be a smoker to do that, right? I don't think hardly anybody that comes to me smokes, like traditional cigarettes or whatever. Other fine herbs, which are not on this list, if you were going to smoke your mullein, wormwood, which is on the next list, is another good one to add to it, because why? It is nature's ivermectin. So any type of parasite, poof, gone. Again, safe for you, safe for your pets. I've used it to help, what's that called? Bobcat fever, where your cats are supposed to die in 3 days. They didn't die. In fact, I used a combination of wormwood, self-heal, and dandelion. Dandelion and self-heal are both not only proven anti-cancer, everybody's heard of that, but they're antiviral. So if you do have an alleged virus or whatever, then those are great to take. If you don't know what self-heal is, it'll probably be in your yard. It looks a lot like basil and mint, which all mints have a square stem, and they have beautiful purple flowers that kinda similar to basil. So yeah, I wish I thought about printing pictures, but then it would have been like way too many papers. So bee balm, again, also antiviral and antimicrobial, which really antimicrobial is just a fancy term for antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, right? So in any of those, you can take them internally, again, as a tea. You can put them in your food. Self-heal tastes like literally nothing. So if you're opposed to wild greens and their bitter flavors, then self-heal would be a super good choice. Put on your sandwich or your soups or whatever. I'm gonna bring this up, echinacea and wormwood and mullein. So up until last December, I had no idea if people who got injections would be able to heal from things. And fortunately, I was called to assist some people, and I let them know ahead of time, I have zero experience. This hasn't been around long enough. I have no idea if this will help or not, but if it was me, this is what I would do. Within the first weekend, they could breathe, they could sleep, they had, and this is after a year and a half, in and out of the hospital, pneumonia, injections, breathing treatment, steroids, a year and a half, calling in sick all the time. 2 weeks later of taking the mixture of the wormwood, echinacea, and mullein, and they did also use my Pain Be Gone and the smoke blend. 2 weeks later, they have never been sick since, and this was last December. And we obviously keep in touch because they're like, dagnammit, if this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have even, because they weren't smokers either. And I'm like, I just smell, what'd you put in here? You put that funny stuff? No, do you know how much that costs these days? So I promise I'm not trying to sneak in like hundreds of dollars of you know, herbs from, yeah, so literally, mullein, I'm sure it's in everybody's yard, and I think last time I was here, I saw somebody brought mullein seeds.
I've got some with leaves, this big red now.
Aren't they beautiful?
Young mullein growing.
Nice.
Yeah. Take some of those up and put them in my greenhouse.
Yes, and so just to let you know, mullein is a biennial, meaning it's a 2-year life cycle. So your first year is really great to harvest the leaves. You're not going to get the flowers to the second years. Yes, Terry.
All right, young lady. I would like to be your guinea pig.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever you've got a little bit made up, I'd like to try it.
Okay. All right. So I would be happy to help. And so let's say you have a willow in your yard and you're experiencing like headaches or things like that. You really want to focus on, I don't know what size y'all's fingers are, but maybe like a pinky size branch, and you can cut one of those and then you can shave the bark, open it up, get the inside out. I hear, and maybe I've used leaves before, willow leaves do have some salicin and other components in it that may help with cold and flu symptoms. But yeah, traditionally it's the bark. And yeah, just stick with one about pinky size, and it's any willow. It doesn't have to be just white willow bark. Maybe that one has been tested as the highest concentration, but just because it doesn't mean they tested all the rest, right? Yes.
When you say the bark, do you mean the harder bark or the soft bark?
You can actually use both.
Like the ones they used for when we were young, we used to use for whipping.
I love it. You could actually use both and shave it all. And if you want, like, say this time of year while it's pleasant outside, just dry some out, put them in a mason jar, and have forever. And since you're asking questions, Terry, I'm done because that's all written there, and I'd rather just answer everybody else's questions if you have any. Because I think I gave them enough of a baseline to maybe make you think, what about that? So, who's next?
Oh, when you're talking about the willow bark, now, do you use the bark in a tea?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You could make a tincture with it too, and being an anti-inflammatory, you could use it topically as well. So.
On the daisy, do you use the flower part, the leaves, or the fruit?
Flowers and leaves, yes, and they're actually like a sweet, spicy kind of flavor. They're super pleasant. In fact, I add them into my salad. They're delicious. I did mention nettles, and I do just want to say for people who are afraid of nettles, if you dry them or tincture them or cook them, like put them in a soup or whatever, they're not going to sting you. And they're super strengthening, right? So whatever it is that you're...
How long will they last?
Dried herbs?
No, when you mix it up. Liquid form.
Oh, tinctures will last longer than any of us will be alive if they're stored properly.
Right.
Absolutely. So, and that's why it's the biggest bang for anybody's buck. You get the highest concentration of medicine in the least amount needing to be taken at probably the lowest cost of anything really too. So yeah, but tinctures, if stored properly, again, dark bottle, don't stick them by a window or in a lighted room or a clear jar like this. I don't know how long they'll... Right.
Under the sink.
Right. Yes.
Do you need some stinging nettle?
Do what?
Do you need some stinging nettle?
Oh,
I got 2 plants. They're good.
You have plants growing right now?
I've got some too.
I got 2 that she gave me. Yeah.
Why mine in August, they're just like, I got a cold, I'm out.
I've got 2 big nice bushes. They're about 3 foot tall.
Right this second.
Yes.
I absolutely would love to trade you for something for a plant, or I have elderberry and
I've got over.
or whatever. Well,
I got those.
whatever I have that you don't have, take it.
You're welcome to come by and see what's on them.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was gifted a whole bunch of free plants the other day, coal crops. So anybody in or near or going through or so yeah,
Are these
collards.
plants?
Yeah, they all came from the nursery. They're in the containers with the little tags, the signs telling you what they are. And take as many as you want. There's several, like probably enough to fit on this table, that many.
Just save me a one here and there.
Okay.
Yeah, come get them, yes.
I've got a question. You say stinging nettle is good for skin and hair health. How do you use that as a
Ooh.
rinse or?
Yeah, so for those of us into making our own, say, shampoo or hair or skin washes, like you can use that and just make a tea. Same with rosemary. In fact, I don't know, I'll just throw this out there since we're talking about that, but like rosemary, lemongrass, nettles, if you make like a really strong tea, you can turn it into shampoo by adding a little bit of honey, a little bit of baking soda, and whatever your favorite essential oil. And you could just like rub it in your scalp. If you wanted to make it an oil, of course, thoroughly dry the herb and massage, but a lot of people are against putting oil on their oily scalp, which like, what? Like you're going to bed, like who cares? Nobody's looking at you, but whatever. Or you could turn it into a salve, right? And something like Self-Heal would be really good for that too. If you need to have like suds, right? Because we're kind of programmed to have suds in our shampoos and things, then you could add like a little bit of Dr. Bronner's or ivy. If any of y'all have ivy growing, that's basically like a natural soap. You just basically have to boil it.
See you guys.
Good to see you. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Do we have any other questions about maybe how we can implement any of these herbs in our lives, or?
That's about all the time
Well,
you
the
got.
only thing, the problem that I have is not recognizing it.
Right.
I had something growing in one of my lots that looked like purslane, but it wasn't flat, it grew up.
Huh.
But it looked like purslane.
Well, personally, can get.
I have had a purslane that's grown up like that. So, okay, ways to figure out what weeds you have in your yard are number one, there's plant apps if you're into smartphones. And then number two, like say you just moved to your area and you want to know what's growing. Just go Google, what are they called? The colleges all have extension courses that probably have very good photos, and then the people that are trying to kill your weeds, right, the weed eradicator businesses, they always have the bad, like, you need to get rid of this, and they have bright, vivid photos. That being said, there's obviously great pioneers like Linda Runyon and
Things that we think are weeds need to be destroyed.
Yeah.
so please, by all means, don't ever do anything I suggest.
Now,
Like, for example, nettles. People don't like to work with nettles. Well, I got hired to go clean out an entire berry patch on a farm of the nettles. And normally they pay people and they just go pick them every year. But I'm like, you want them gone, right? Went in through the soil, pulled them all out, and I did not wear gloves. Well, what happened as a result of that? If you look at videos of me in 2017 and you see my hands, I had all the arthritic nodules on my fingers, couldn't lift up my own anything. Gone. Poof. Gone. So, like, bee sting therapy is a thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nettle sting. I'm not promoting any of this. It's something that I figured out on my own, doing it myself.
but
And
it's well worth the try, if you want to. And like I
right,
said,
but
you know, I've had a good run.
Right.
And this is 77 of these wonderful years. And I've worked with my hands in the ground,
Nice.
bare, no gloves. I have a tough time wearing gloves. Even doing plants, I have a tough time doing that. So I still stick my hands in the ground. But now we have what they call some name on my hands, and everything's tightening up and will lock up periodically.
Huh. Have you touched nettles lately?
Not lately. This is permanent now, right now. This is here. It's not permanent.
Well, nothing's permanent
No, I'm
unless we
saying
want it
it's
to
been
be.
here for several years now.
Okay.
And it just seems to be getting worse.
I had these since 2012 and they're gone. So I think they weren't erased. I'd have to go back and check my videos, but maybe 2018 or
What I'm trying
19.
to tell you, if you need an experiment to do a little research for yourself, hello,
Come on over.
I have no issues, no problems,
All right.
because I've been a guinea pig for the hospital forever.
Right. Okay, so
Come on.
I guess we're done, right?
Take a picture.
How do we know we're done?
Okay, so I'm driving home and I am just adding this addendum because the phone kept dying and all of that good stuff. So, flu. If you are trying to fly through flu season with ease, I don't want to forget like the basics, right? Of course, winter, there is less sunshine, right? And vitamin D. Do what you can to get outside and get some sunshine and some fresh air as often as you can, right? Those shorter days kind of suck butt sometimes, but don't forget the importance of that. And of course the basics, right? Your sleep, are we getting enough sleep, or are we still spreading ourselves too thin? Are we eating good, nutrient, mineral, rich, dense foods? Vitamin C, vitamin D, of course. I'm not a fan of supplements. That's a middleman to me. So I am always going to suggest going to the source. So whether that's Myers lemons or wild oranges or even pineapple or papaya, or depends on where you live, right? So you keep up your fluids. Another thing that I'll probably get deleted for saying on YouTube, but there are some trails up in the sky, and they're not all the same. Some of them, you know, make white trails with a blue sky, and then others make like a silver gray sky with kind of like a dark gray blackish ones. Like I can smell those. I try to not go outside as much as possible in those times. Although, you know, getting back to the homeopathy principle, sometimes a little bit of poison goes a long way. I'm not suggesting going out there or anything, but in my own personal experience, one day I went out and I saw it and smelt it, and I got mad. I'm like, damn it, you know, why are you guys doing this? And then I decided right there that I'm gonna face it and I'm gonna give thanks for protection of the land and our healthy bodies to be able to withstand. And then I just sat there and inhaled it, and I did actually feel it, right? So we'll just call them cunt trail, but we might not even be allowed to say cunt. Who cares? Everything I say is illegal. But yeah, so just keep in mind the basics are never, don't underestimate the basics, right? The sunshine, the rest, even play and laughter, the good food, the nutrient, you know. So yeah, I think didn't get to talk about that kind of basic stuff. And like I said before, as far as any of those herbs we've discussed and then some, then obviously feel free. If you make a tea, every single day and drink it, it's going to do a lot to boost your natural immunity. You know, stick with natural, no middleman antioxidants, which will help cut down on free radicals and other things that contribute to a weakened immune system. And yeah, I think that's about all I have to say for this right now. And thanks for joining us, and see you next time.